The tow truck's rusted arms had just dipped low enough to clasp onto the undercarriage of the unmarked black sedan when a voice rang out across the street, a shrill, triumphant screech that could have cut glass. But it wasn't the car's owner who cried out. No, the voice came from a woman standing on her front lawn, adorned in a lavender bathrobe, fuzzy slippers, and the unmistakable aura of someone who believed she ran the entire neighborhood. Tow it. I don't care if it's a police car. Nobody gets special treatment in Willow Ridge, she barked, arms crossed tightly, as though the force of her conviction alone would anchor the vehicle in place. She didn't realize yet the man walking toward her calmly from the brick house 2 doors down, coffee in hand and a badge tucked in his coat, was not just the car's owner, but Detective Marcus Trent of the county's Special Investigations Unit. And unlike the tow truck's lights, the red and blue that suddenly lit up her perfectly trimmed hedges weren't decorative. Cassandra Mulroney, unofficial queen of the HOA and self-proclaimed keeper of the community's purity, was about to find herself at the center of a legal firestorm bigger than any clipboard citation she'd ever wielded. Like most disasters involving Cassandra, it had started with a clipboard, a whistle, and an unhealthy obsession with parking regulations. Her commitment to the Willow Ridge HOA bylaws bordered on zealotry. She marched up and down the cul-de-sac like she was commanding a suburban battalion, snapping photos of license plates, jotting timestamps on her legal pad, and lecturing Amazon drivers as if she were handing out holy verdicts from asphalt mountaintops. Her obsession zeroed in on one spot, in particular the community garden's visitor parking space. It wasn't assigned to anyone, but Cassandra treated it like a birthright. So when a black sedan with no visible pass appeared there one evening and hadn't moved by sunrise, she didn't just notice. She activated. The irony? Nobody else in the neighborhood had paid any attention to the car. That's because the man driving it had slipped in quietly, respectfully, and under the radar. Detective Marcus Trent had just moved into the neighborhood as part of an ongoing undercover operation aimed at dismantling a regional human trafficking ring. Willow Ridge, with its spotless lawns and overbearing HOA, offered the perfect camouflage. Marcus had done this type of work before, but he hadn't anticipated dealing with someone like Cassandra. In fact, as far as Marcus could tell, Cassandra was more persistent and possibly more dangerous than the criminals he was tracking. The vehicle in question wasn't just a car. It was an active surveillance platform, rigged with discrete cameras, encrypted communications, and registered under a department alias. It wasn't meant to draw attention. Yet somehow, it had drawn Cassandra's wrath like moths to porch light. By 9:45 a.m. the next morning, she had already called her cousin's towing companion dubious operation, known more for its aggression than its adherence to municipal law. By 10:05, the tow truck was rumbling into place. Neighbors peeked out from behind blinds. A few began filming, more out of habit than concern. Everyone in Willow Ridge knew that wherever Cassandra appeared, a spectacle was sure to follow. The tow truck driver, a wiry man with mirrored sunglasses and a patchy beard, paused when he noticed the small government-issued tag behind the windshield. Cassandra, you sure this is okay?" he asked, stepping away from the winch. She didn't miss a beat. "I've already documented the violation. Unauthorized vehicle. No visible pass. Tow it. Rules are rules." That's when Marcus emerged from his house. He wasn't in uniform, just jeans, a sweater, and a calm demeanor that belied the spike of irritation rising in his chest. "Excuse me," he called out, walking across the sidewalk. "Is there a reason you're trying to tow my vehicle?" Cassandra whipped around, her expression morphing from glee to guarded offense. "This is a private parking space for community residents. I don't recognize you. You must be a guest, and guests don't get to park here." "I'm not a guest," Marcus replied smoothly. "I live 2 doors down. Moved in last month." Her eyes narrowed. "Impossible. I manage the residency roster." Marcus reached into his coat pocket and produced his badge. "Detective Marcus Trent, County Special Investigations." "That vehicle is government property, and it's part of an active operation." The silence that followed was so stark it could have vacuumed up every sound on the block. Cassandra's mouth twisted through a series of emotions: confusion, denial, indignation. "Well, That doesn't exempt you from HOA policy, she snapped. You should have submitted a request to park there. Ma'am, Marcus said calmly, had that vehicle been towed, it would have compromised a felony investigation. That's obstruction. Are you threatening me? She shrieked. I know my rights. The tow truck driver, now fully aware that he was standing in a legal minefield, unhooked the car with hands that trembled just enough to be noticeable. Marcus gave him a glance. Might want to double-check your operating license. The department will be following up. I'll be filing complaints. Cassandra shouted. With the police chief, the mayor, the governor. What she didn't know and couldn't possibly have anticipated was that her little act of neighborhood vigilance had just tripped a federal wire. Marcus filed his incident report that afternoon, attaching time-stamped body cam footage, screenshots of community complaints, and a troubling history of unauthorized enforcement Cassandra had allegedly carried out under the guise of HOA integrity. Things escalated quickly from there. The next morning, Cassandra tried to get ahead of the story. She uploaded a video to social media, cleverly edited to depict Marcus as an aggressive outsider and herself as a helpless victim. Unfortunately for her, several residents had filmed the incident too. Within hours, the original uncut footage was everywhere: doorbell cams, smartphones, Marcus's own body cam. Cassandra's narrative unraveled in real time. But the real damage wasn't online. Internal Affairs began a probe not into Marcus but into Cassandra's cousin's towing company. What they uncovered wasn't a single infraction. It was a pattern. Illegal tows, false violations, improper documentation, excessive fees, and a paper trail that led back to Cassandra. The HOA members, once hesitant to challenge her, began talking, whispering, gathering. One by one, they share their own stories. Fines issued without warning. Threats delivered in official-sounding letters. Financial discrepancies in HOA funds. The former treasurer, a meek man named Eric, came forward with detailed records. Landscaping services paid for, but never rendered. Community events that never occurred. Security upgrades that were actually dummy cameras installed by Cassandra's nephew. Within a week, the county's Code Enforcement Division issued a subpoena for HOA records. When they arrived to collect them, Cassandra tried to bar their entry, waving the HOA charter like it was the Constitution. One of the officers handed her the warrant. By then, she knew she was in trouble. But instead of backing down, Cassandra escalated. She called an emergency HOA meeting in her backyard. Folding chairs, warm lemonade, a banner that read, "Order through honor." She used a megaphone to claim that Detective Trent was impersonating law enforcement, that her cousin's towing company had been unfairly targeted, that the real conspiracy was against her. Marcus hadn't planned to attend, but when his name was smeared across the HOA message board, he decided to show up in full uniform. He stood quietly at the back of the crowd until Cassandra pointed her megaphone at him and demanded he identify himself. He did. He showed his badge. He explained the investigation, and he told the truth. That's when the crowd began to shift. Murmurs spread. Eyes narrowed. A neighbor named Glenn leaned over to his wife and whispered, "She's lost them." Cassandra's last stand came in the form of a heavily edited video titled, "Local Leader Harassed by Rogue Cop." It was immediately picked apart by online sleuths, and it sparked a new level of attention not just from the public, but from prosecutors. They weren't just looking at the parking dispute anymore. They were looking at fraud, extortion, harassment, and obstruction. With new evidence in hand, including texts between Cassandra and her cousin detailing illicit towing operations, the DA moved swiftly. A recall vote was announced. Flyers appeared on every mailbox. "It's time for real leadership," they read. "Let's take back Willow Ridge." On the day of the vote, the community center overflowed. Residents who hadn't attended a meeting in years came back, determined. When Cassandra tried to hijack the mic, Olivia, newly elected secretary, shut her down using her own rulebook. Marcus waited outside, holding the signed affidavit from Cassandra's cousin. When the vote came in 91% in favor of her, Rimaval handed the affidavit to county officers waiting in the lot. They arrested Cassandra on her own lawn minutes later. She screamed. She sprayed them with her garden hose. She cursed and shouted about bylaws and conspiracies. But this time, no one helped. No one defended her. No one intervened. She was taken away in cuffs, soaked and shrieking, while Cupcake, the poodle, barked from the window. The reign of Cassandra Mulroney, HOA tyrant of Willow Ridge, was over not with a vote, but with a warrant. The cleanup was swift and beautiful. Olivia took charge. Marcus assisted discreetly. Residents rewrote bylaws, issued refunds, and created a transparent digital system for all future HOA decisions. The neighborhood hosted its first real block party in years. Someone even built a dunk tank labeled "Not Cassandra." And by the lamppost where it all began, someone posted a sign, "Reserved for Detective Marcus Trent. No Karens allowed." Justice wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel. It was patient, precise, and when it arrived, it restored more than order. It restored community.